As I've gone through my career in the nonprofit sector, it's become clearer and clearer to me that no one organization can do it alone. The problems that we face are simply too big. The skill sets we need are too diverse. And so if we are in this work to actually make a lasting change, I think the only way we can do it is through collaboration. So the prisoner's dilemma, I think, is illustrative of why it's hard to collaborate in the nonprofit sector. And the prisoner's dilemma is a thought experiment that was developed essentially during the Cold War by a set of mathematicians, trying to understand how people make decisions when they don't have perfect information. And the idea is there are two prisoners, each in separate cells, and they both have to decide, am I going to confess or am I going to keep quiet? And am I going to betray the person that's in the other room? And depending on what the other person does, your own consequences are affected. And that's a little bit complicated. There's all sorts of math behind it, but the fundamental idea behind it is that we have to make decisions with imperfect information. And that often to collaborate, we need both sides to be engaged. And I think that tells us something about what happens in the nonprofit sector, where two organizations that might want to work together, they have to trust each other. So one possible solution in the nonprofit sector for enabling that kind of trust is a contract. And that does help. But what I think is even more emotionally profound is that in the nonprofit sector, we all want to believe in each other. We want to think that we don't even need a contract. The idea of taking another nonprofit to court is just so unappealing in the nonprofit sector. And sometimes a contract can help, but other times we have to figure out on a deeper, more emotional level, how are we going to actually get that trust? If the prisoner's dilemma tells us why collaboration is hard, economies of scale tells us why collaboration is important. So in these different ways, we see economies of scale enabling greater potential on the part of nonprofits to achieve their missions, whether through more influence because of reputational economies of scale, more efficiency through financial economies of scale, or more convenience through the interconnection across different service providers. Collaboration has become central to GuideStar's strategy and how we think about our role in the field. I remember having brunch with a friend of mine who worked at Google, and I was bragging about GuideStar. And I said, we have 6 million users every year. And my friend at Google sort of smiled and he said, well, we have 6 million users every minute. And it was a very humbling moment for me, because I realized that even as we are a large organization in the context of the nonprofit sector, in the broader context of the internet economy, we're small. And the only way we're able to magnify our impact is through partnership. And so we've signed a deal with Google, and Google uses our data through their reach, as does Facebook, as does Amazon. And so we've tried to build into GuideStar's DNA the belief that collaboration is not a nice thing to do, but it's a way to achieve a mission. One other thought I'll add is that collaboration in the context of social change is not just about collaboration among nonprofit organizations. It is also about how nonprofits collaborate with government entities, with corporate entities, with groups of people who aren't even a part of an incorporated legal body. And that makes it harder, it makes it more complicated, it makes it legally tricky. But in a world where we have a blurring across sector boundaries, we need to be thoughtful about the different ways that collaboration can play out. And the one other thing I'll add is that collaboration doesn't have to be permanent. Sometimes it makes sense for 2 organizations or 3 or 7 organizations to come together for a moment, for a campaign, for a period, and then disperse again. And that I think this will also play out when we think about cross-sector collaboration. So let's be ambitious as we think about collaboration, but also humble in how we tackle these hard problems, and recognize we don't always have to get it right, but we can engage in a series of experiments that help move us along a path that may be foggy towards the end, but as we walk together, I think we can begin to break that fog.